afternoon, everybody. We're going to give everybody a little bit of time to allow their audio to connect. And as this is now Zoom world, we kind of have to give everybody that 5 to 10 minute grace period to kind of get here and get settled in. I'm sure many of us are going through some IT issues today, as the volume of students who hit the bandwidth today has probably messed with your internet and your phone. So we completely get that. Awesome. One after another, they're coming in. You did a good job, Liesel and Mandy and Heather, getting word out. Awesome. My name's Rosalind, by the way. I am the host and moderator and community specialist coordinator. That's a lot of words, huh? I'm actually just a community engagement coordinator for Waking Giants. Just a few housekeeping things before we get started. Everybody's, I'm going to assume, benevolent is familiar with Zoom, but heads up, you guys are grown-ups. You're able to mute and unmute yourself if you would like to ask questions. The only caveat to that is there's many of us in here, and obviously we can't talk over each other. So if you go to the more buttons under the list of participants, there's a yes, a no, go slow, go faster, and more, 3 little dots if you're on a computer using Zoom. You right click that, you're able to raise your hand. Also in the bottom of your screen, there's a bunch of little icons. Chat, it's a great way to ask questions. You can always chat myself, Rosalind, Waking Giants host. I'm going to tell you guys hi in the chat window right now. You can always drop down over the names and chat myself or Sera directly. Then also you can talk to your friends or someone you might know in the participants window. Those chats are not recorded, so you guys can have a whole side conversation. We'd have no idea what you guys were talking about, but we'd hope you stay focused and hang out with us. Another thing is reactions. That's a great way to let us know if you're understanding what we're talking about or you're confused. You click reactions. Right now I'm going to give you guys a thumbs up. You see that corner? I just gave myself a thumbs up. Great way to tell us our reactions. So long story short, my boss is over here in this Hollywood Square. Come check us out at wakinggiants.me. We're not here just to make your life a little easier for COVID. We have a lot of other stuff going on. So without further ado, boss, take it away.
Thank you, Roz. Well, hello, Athena community. Hi. It's nice to see you again. I now have officially joined your club of parents of children back at school. My children are right now, as we speak, on their first day of school. One starting O. Henry Middle School and the other at Zilker. And so far so good. No one's yelled, no one's cried. That's where we're putting the bar right now. Feeling real good about it. So I'm super excited to be back here with you. Been thinking about you a lot and holding space for you in my heart and my mind, and as you navigate the brave new world with your littles and your dedicated troop of teachers and administrators who are working so hard to keep y'all safe. So super glad to be here with you guys. A couple housekeeping things for folks who weren't here the first time around. This is just something I'm going to cover every time we see each other, which is we have 4 rules of engagement just to keep it clean and kind here for these calls. 1 is humility, right? No, we're all here learning new things. While I am an infectious disease public health expert, have been working in the field for 20 years, there are still things I don't know, and with this virus that we are still learning because it's new. So I ask for everybody to recommit to the student posture for all of us as we learn more about this virus and how to be with it and be away from it. Community as our second rule of engagement. We're all here together. We are so lucky to be so. To be in community right now just feels like medicine. And I'm really glad to be here with you on that one. Another one is leading with connection. So I love questions. Bring them. Can't wait for them. And what I ask is that all of us commit to a tone of genuine connection rather than trying to lead with some sort of judgment or conviction. Again, we're all here to be in community and be together in this. And then the last, dare I say it, is fun. Because folks, there is fun to be found right now in life. And we got to find it because it's how we're going to get through this. So one last reminder that this call is 45 minutes, not an hour. So Roz and I will do our best to give everybody like a 5-minute heads up as we get towards the end. But we have lots of topics to cover. I got your survey notes, which are great. I'm super excited to dive into that. So the way that we're going to organize this conversation today is I'm going to speak to some of the survey questions. Then I'll talk about new emerging science, and then hopefully we have time left for some direct Q&A. Mandy or Liesel, either of you want to say anything before I get to it? No.
I don't think so. I think we're good, Sarah. Thanks.
Okay, great. Okay, so I loved the question, what do we do when we get home? Like, how do we integrate our kids into our houses to keep everybody clean and safe? I love that. And as in keeping with the Montessori pedagogy, my suggestion to you is that you have stations for that. You have a station when they come in the door where everything that they had on comes off. You can have just like a laundry basket there. We have by our front door the same, and we also have a very artful set of hooks that my husband made for masks. He's a doctor, but sometimes he gets to make pottery too. So he made us these nice pottery or mask hooks that we have. And then there's a basket right under them where the dirty ones go, so that nobody's ever mixing them twice. We also have adopted an approach in our family where everybody has their own brand of masks. And what I mean by that is that we all chose like a theme so that they would visibly be very easy to identify. So like my 10-year-old loves cats. So any of the masks with cats on them are his. I'm 80s pop music, The Queen, Erasure, Tina Turner, those are all mine. My husband loves this band called Fish. Those are all his. My 11-year-old loves Star Wars. So all the Too Close You Are, all those are his. So that just gives us a real easy like eyeball assessment of whose masks are who. And we just wash those in the laundry. I mean, we do a load of laundry, usually one every day. So we just toss them in there and then hang them back up. So the clean ones go on the hooks, the dirty ones go in the basket. You guys are doing such a good job of keeping things clean and, as they say in my tribe, kosher at the school around containment and exposure. So, you know, maybe changing their clothes isn't something that you guys need to do, but it's certainly something that we do in our family every time we go out. I wouldn't say that there's like hard science saying that that's a necessary and hard practice, but it certainly can't hurt. And it probably at this point, your kids being littles, they're coming home like with mud and paint and other stuff on them anyway. Also, Mr. Rogers loves this about transition, right? Like you're going from school to home, you are marking something, you're in a different space now. For those of us who are in the same space all of the time, we are very much relying on these little rituals as we can find and make them. So again, I can't point you to like a bunch of JAMA articles about this, but I do think that generally speaking, it's good practice both for your physical health and for your mental. Then we had some questions about Halloween. What? It's September, Halloween. My kids are already also asking me about this. In fact, we had a conversation about it while walking through the neighborhood this weekend. Halloween, interestingly enough, is a holiday that has a lot of social distance behavior built into it already, right? Like probably all of us, when we're teaching our children the protocol of like going up to somebody's door, is that you go up and you knock and you ring and you step back, right? You don't want to be like up in their grill when they open the door. So that's good practice, right? You can go about your business. Maybe you have a costume that involves gloves or something on their hands and a mask, a naturally occurring mask, right? That would be great. And then those things will go directly into the wash when you get home. One of the things that we love about Halloween is that we always spend it with the same families going around our neighborhood. You can still totally do that. What you're going to need to do in advance, however, is communicate with those families about all of the risk assessment that we keep talking about here, right? Like, is everybody healthy? What kind of exposure have people had? In our family, we have two families that we pod with, which means that we hang out with them without masks in each other's houses. They are the only people we see face to face. We get our groceries delivered. We don't go out anyplace else except my husband, who goes to the clinic where he's like covered in a hazmat suit. So we have decided to, we talked about this last time, like saving your risk and then making a smart spend of that risk. And so if Halloween is a day or an event that's super important to you and to your kids, then I would really encourage you to save that risk and then spend it on that day with families that you feel super safe with. Then just when you're out and about that night, you want to just stay 6 feet at least away from other pods or other families that you're seeing moving around the neighborhood. I would not suggest haunted houses, places where you're going to touch things or where there's an enclosed space. So there is a haunted house in our neighborhood. I live in Zilker. I know some of you may have been to this insane Halloween that happens on Ford Street in our neighborhood where the police come in and block off. And it's like several thousand people come through this party. And there are 2 haunted houses that are open air, and they generally only let 1 or 2 kids through at a time. It'll be interesting to see how innovative people get with that this year. I don't see a problem with that as long, again, as like everybody's masked, you've got your hands covered, and you're staying far away from folks. And when you are going through a haunted house or something like that, that you're doing so at a safe distance. Candy, super, comes in its own little package. How ideal is that? That's safe. No more dangerous than it ever has been. Yeah, so I think that covers the Halloween. Safe. As safe as, binge eating all of that candy in a 24-hour period can be for anybody. I think that's all of the Halloween items that I thought of. If anybody has another Halloween question, I'll pause for a second and you can pop it into the chat window or unmute yourselves and just shout out. I'll give that a minute. I mean, one of the things we'll probably do in our house is to do that, like put a bowl of candy outside and a sign that just says take 1 piece, happy Halloween. Which, depending on the honesty of the people in your neighborhood, could work or could not work. Or if a band of teenagers shows up and are like, woohoo, we're taking the bowl, jackpot. But Halloween actually is like, there's a lot of natural COVID prevention built into that holiday. So hopefully we will still get to really enjoy it. All right, I haven't seen any questions about that one pop up, but I'll keep the chat window open if somebody comes up with one. All right, we talked about that. All right, so we got a couple more questions about recommended outdoor activities. Guys, we made it. Do you feel it? It's like, there are going to be mornings this week when it's only like 60 degrees. Woo! We made it! So what that means for us is that we are just, like, the door is just cracking open on the season of outdoor activities for us, which is amazing. Unlike so many other parts in the country where they're like, oh crap, everybody go outside because we're about to go inside for 6 months. So in this way, guys, we are looking at a much more pleasurable and connected, next 6 months than lots of people in the country. Hold on, I just want to read this question. I was thinking of hanging candy from clothespins on a clothesline. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's also so cute. Yes, send photos, please. I like that. Yeah, so outdoor activities are about to get so much more fun and abundant for all of us. Thank friggin' God. So again, any kind of water-based activity, you're pretty safe. Even if it's a lake or an ocean, you know, like those are generally speaking activities where people are not right on top of each other. And you tend to stay, you know, a couple feet away from each other in those activities anyway. So those are great. The naturally occurring socially distanced sports like tennis, those are great. I actually saw on a street this weekend when we were out walking, somebody took spray paint in the street and made like a tennis court, and off to the side of the street they had just like a portable net and some nets and some balls where people could just like set up for a tennis match in the middle of the road. I thought that was very clever and innovative. Running is about to get a lot more comfortable for us, and that's a great sport. You know, generally speaking, we do that alone. If you've got running folks that you hang out with, you know, running side by side is better rather than one riding behind you. What we know about the aspiration transmission of this virus is that the more we huff, like the particles that are coming from deep in our nose or deep in our throat are where the virus lives. And so the activities that we engage in that really push those out are where transmission is more likely to happen. So if you're running with somebody, run next to them, not behind them. And if you're running out where there are people around you, there's a Dutch study that says 30 feet is what you need to be behind or in front of to stay safe when running. But that's exciting that we're about to even be able to do that again without having heat stroke. And we're about to be able to really enjoy all of these incredible outdoor spaces that we have. And that is awesome. There are so many of them that you should feel safe starting to move through. Farmers markets, right? Thank you for the farmers markets. Open air, wear your mask, you know, stay 6 feet away from the buyers in front of you. Ideally use a card when you pay for things so that you're not touching currency. You know, those are really great interactions, weekend outings. There's a drive-in movie theater in town. I highly recommend, especially now that you could go and like maybe turn your car off and just sit there and enjoy an open air movie at night. Outside, cocktails, dinner with friends, go for it, but no more than 10. You really need to keep the gatherings below 10 people still. And I think that would just be a good practice for the next several months. The community contagion rate, you know, is still widely varied according to zip code in Austin. My zip code 78704 is at 2%. Other zip codes in town are at 12%. What we want is less than 5. So you can see there's a wide variance, and all of those numbers are available on the city public health department's website, and they update it weekly if you're just curious to keep up with that. Play dates are great, guys. Great. So great. Do it. Just do it safe. You know, make sure that you are 6 to 10 feet apart from any adult. If you're closer, you definitely need to have a mask on. Bring all your own cutlery. Bring your own chairs, your own blankets. Station them safely apart and let your kids go. The playgrounds, you know, as long as there are less than 6 or 8 kids on it, go for it. And then make sure you really wash them down after, like Purelling the hands, anything, knees, legs, anything that the body that might have touched the playground, I would wipe those down real thoroughly. Does anybody have any specific outdoor event questions? I'll pause for a minute. And hike and bike trail, when crowded, no real way to be 30 feet from runners. Yeah, agreed. Greenbelt trails are single track, I know. And some people are masked and some people are not. If you are able, go at an off time, like midweek is way better than weekend. I mean, this is another bummer about school starting is for some of us, we've been able to get away during the middle of the week to the trails when they haven't been so full, but now everybody is going to be trying to get on them in the mornings and the evenings and the weekends. And that's going to be tough, especially with all the UT students back, guys. And that is like going to sink our ability to move around freely ship quite quickly, I predict, here in Austin. So if you see people who look like college students, go the other direction, and stay away from campus. That would be mine. Like, don't let that be where you're gathering on the weekends.
Hey,
Right?
Liesl, just a heads up. I know the Greenbelt Trail is crowded. I am actually a frequenter of the Greenbelt Trail, but something I should advise to you is that the blessing of not having a lot of rain is that you can actually run or bike the Greenbelt itself because it's dry. And that way you don't have to be on the actual path. It's actually a path already made for you. So if you're a trail runner or a mountain biker, bike the Greenbelt Creek itself, and then you're off trail and you don't have to worry about that aerosol.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, so, you know, the good news about state parks and those sorts of places is that any kind of outside traffic those might have had will be reduced down. It'll just be locals. I took my kids out to Lake Bastrop last week. We were the only people there. Admittedly, the water was literally 100 degrees. It was swimming through soup, but we were the only people there. Plus, that's a bonus. So take advantage of those local state parks. Those are really great places to be if you can get to them right now. You know, and then urban spaces like the Capitol. There's so much shade at the Capitol, great spaces to hang out, and great opportunity for conversations about civics and government. And, yeah, so, you know, I've actually also heard about a couple virtual 5Ks. My family, God help us, we've been calling it quarantine to 5K. We go out and just like run sprints in our neighborhood every night during this insane heat. Training for no specific 5K. This was just to like get us off the couch. But now we have entered race season in Austin, and a lot of those races are virtual, which means you just run them on your own time, which is awesome. So, you know, if that's something that you and your family are interested in, I really encourage you to look that stuff up. We've been going to the Wildflower Center, which has been great. You can stay 30 feet away, bring lunch, have a picnic, attendance is limited. Yeah, that sounds so dreamy. Roz lives really close to there, and yeah, that sounds great. My family, we have not taken advantage of that yet, but we plan on it this fall.
I think a lot of families are used to going to popular outdoor spaces, and those are the places they're looking for to like resume that normalcy and that routine. But please use this as a means. Explore the Onion Creek Greenbelt Trail. It is huge, and it's not Barton Creek, and it's not as packed. Mary Moore Searoy Park, another great creek trail, huge, not as populated as a Greenbelt Trail. Same with the Wildflower Center. The Wildflower Center, if you have children, is absolutely phenomenal, but you're going to need reservations. There's the Southwest 45 Trail. If you are homeschooling or you have children who are in school, the Southwest 45 Trail is amazing. They actually have augmented reality stations along the trail to help your kids learn about the various flora and fauna and ecosystems in Austin. And it's phenomenal. So diversify a little bit your outdoor spaces. Zilker Park, Greenbelt, all that's not going to cut it anymore because of the influx of college students. Expand a little bit. See where your tax dollars are going, guys.
All great suggestions, Roz. Really good. It just occurs to me, like, we should reach out to the Parks Department and just be like, where is nobody? So that we can recommend those spaces.
The Onion Creek Greenbelt Trail. There is no one. Something about being near a FEMA buyout zone just freaked people and made them run away. It's kind of weird.
I found out one of the reasons that water at Lake Bastrop was so hot is because they used that water to cool the plant. I didn't know that. I was like, this is just really hot water. My dad was like, yeah, this is why. The things we learn. All right, so there's one more question I'll speak to, and then I'm just gonna speak to there hasn't been a lot of new science come out since we talked, but I can update you on a few things, and then we're gonna Q&A, just so you can get a few minutes to ask any other questions that might have come up. So the last question I'll speak to is how to keep your children from touching their faces. And this is a tough one. I mean, I think we could all identify a handful of grown-ups who could use some instruction with this, who are hair twirlers, beard. My husband is always just like rubbing his face and all of the hair on his face. So rather than, I would really challenge us to pivot with this a bit, and rather than how to keep the kid from touching the face, how to make the touching of the face safe, right? And that just comes down to hygiene and more hand washing. I think that kids who touch their face, there's something bigger. Oftentimes, there's something bigger at work there. They're nervous about something. They're trying to, create a pause in a conversation to think about the thing they need to say. They're thinking. A couple years ago, those like spin things were big. I would not say that those have really ever worked for my kids. My kids, generally speaking, like when they're listening to something, they really like to have something in their hands as they're focusing, as lots of adults do too, right? So maybe making sure when they head out to a thing, they've got a couple fidget items in their pockets and that those get cleaned every day. That might keep them from touching their faces. But really the deal is just to keep those hands clean. And so if the hand goes here and it goes to someone else's nose or someone else's mouth, make sure that gets clean before it gets back to their own, which I know is a hyper level of vigilance for parents and teachers. But you guys are teaching your kids. Your kids don't know any different yet. Everything they're learning right now, they're learning for the first time. And so if we can just frame it not as like, oh, this drastic change is coming, but this is a thing we do. We wash our hands every hour. We set a timer. We wash our hands. We sing this song while we do it. Whatever it is that gets it done. But I think that the touching of the face is tough to control. So maybe an easier control is to make sure that the hands and the face are clean. Okay, so a couple quick, not necessarily new, but emergent pieces of science. The last time we talked a bit about why there isn't a lot of data about these kids' ages, 18 months to 6 years old. And it is because we did the right thing in the spring, right? Everybody went home. And so that data wasn't being gathered on children as vectors or transmitters of this virus because most of them were home. It's also a kind of tough thing to control for. Where did you contract the virus, right? Identifying where a person contracted it requires a very rigorous contact tracing system that we don't have in this country. To give you a sense of where we're at with the contact tracing in this country, we should, for an optimally functioning contact tracing system in this country, we need 100,000 contact tracers. We have 24,000. So we are way behind on that. And what these people do is that when a daycare or a restaurant or a church is identified by one of their clients or one of their patrons that they've tested positive, they call their state health department, and that health department then puts a case worker onto this case, and it's a contact tracer, and that person is then responsible for talking to each of these people and figuring out who they've been with for the last 14 days, contacting all of them, letting them know that they need to isolate. So you can imagine that we are very behind systemically on being able to trace this data. We also live in a state where we do not require daycares to report illnesses, and we encourage it, but if they report it, the state also is not mandated to disclose that information to anybody because of privacy, they are claiming. So even though there might be cases being reported in Texas, we might not know about them. They might be tallied ultimately in a grand tally that could be released. But that kind of information, like what daycare is it, what health center is it, what nursing home is it, is not likely to be public information unless the media pick it up and turn it into a journalistic investigation. So those are the reasons why we still don't have a lot of information on this. What we do, we're lucky that, communities like your own are endeavoring into this in a responsible way. And the data that you guys are collecting will be so, so important. Hold on, we are required by licensing to report certain illnesses. Are you saying there's no recourse for centers that just don't? Exactly. Nobody, you don't have to. They're not going to come after you and shut you down. And that list, I mean, I think most importantly to just like the lay people involved is that like somebody looking for a daycare center, if they had cases or not had cases, that's just not going to be information that's going to be available to them through public health sites in this state. This is a state specific practice. You can call the health department. They might tell you. They're not mandated to. Yeah. So that is why we have so little information about this. We're getting more and more. What we do know is that children do transmit it at the same rate as adults. This is certainly different than what we thought was happening early on, but again, that's because children weren't out in the world at the rate that adults were. So we weren't able to track that. What we don't know yet is the rates at which they're doing so, because they are very often asymptomatic. This is a very smart virus, folks. It knows how to get around, and children being asymptomatic is a very good strategy on the part of this virus. So we also, are learning more and more about how important masks are, and staying apart from each other and being outside. Those are really the top 3 things that we can do. And kids starting at 2, the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics all advocate should be wearing masks, but not necessarily children under 2. And that they should be wearing them anytime that they are out of their homes. And if they are even and sometimes in their homes, if they live with people who are at risk, have a respiratory condition, or meet some other kind of requirement of an at-risk person. So that is all the new information. It's not certainly new, but it's consistent per se, and we're getting more information on it. And I will continue to bring this up and share any new stuff that comes up when we speak again in 2 weeks. Perfect timing. Look at me. Look at that. It's like 7 minutes till. I'm so proud of me. So I'll open this up for, direct Q&As, or Liesl, Mandy, you can hop in if you want to ask me to speak to something more specifically. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit here and drink my water.
There was one question that came out of our admin meeting today, Kimberly. I'm trying to remember. Oh, it was around if parents have questions about whether their family has already had the virus, recovered from the virus. Do we know any more science as to whether that affects future getting it, passing it, et cetera?
So we do know more science. It's not the science we were hoping for. It is the science that people can get this more than one time. So having had COVID once does not protect you from having it again. Lots of studies being done on whether the second time around will be as severe, but we do know that they can get it again. Yeah, so that's a bummer for all those folks out there who thought they had developed some sort of immunity. We have some friends in town who had it early on. They're both healthcare providers, and they didn't get super sick. They lost their sense of smell. They had very young kids and couldn't smell the diapers anymore, and were like, something's going on here. But that's really the only symptom they had. So they quarantined and did all the things, and they were so excited. They were like, the world is our oyster. Now we can go and do all the things because we're immune. And now we know that that's not the case. How likely to get it again, we don't know that yet. But I can, if these are things that are of interest to you, I can add that to the list and speak to that every other week when we see each other. Even if they don't show symptoms again, can people who have had COVID be vectors? If they have contracted the virus again, certainly. I think what you might be asking is about shedding the virus and being asymptomatic. And that generally, as far as we know, only lasts 14 days. So that's part of the antibody test that some people are having after they've tested positive. When the antibody count is low enough, then they are cleared to start interacting with society, and they are not considered vectors at that point. But somebody who is asymptomatic but positive is a vector, and that person could be somebody who's had the virus twice, but wasn't contagious the whole time. Does that answer your question, Kimberly? I can't see Kimberly. Is she nodding at me? Yeah.
She
Okay.
said yes. And Sarah, there was a question about flu shots. What do you think about flu shots?
I love a flu shot. Get thee thy flu shot. This is another one of those things that we don't do for ourselves. We do for other people. You don't do this so that you don't get the flu. You do this so that the people who can't get the flu shot and the flu is very dangerous to them don't get the flu. Hopefully you don't get the flu and it has a protective element, but it doesn't always. And this flu season of all flu seasons is so important that those of us who are healthy and can reduce the spread in this way, that we do what we can. It's such an easy thing to do. They're available at like every pharmacy. Real quick, highly recommend it.
Sarah, I know this is a little bit separate, but do you recommend a doctor's office as over a pharmacy? I hear that sometimes there's more like preservatives or chemicals in the ones that are at the big pharmacies as opposed to the single-use ones at doctors.
You know, being married to a pediatrician, I can get you that information. I will ask him which ones he recommends and where he's sending people in town, and I can share that with you guys.
Thank you. And some are like triple strand and quadruple strand. I know Costco right now is doing a quadruple single shot strand for $20. Like, we'd love to be able to provide a resource for families as to kind of where to go for that.
You bet. I don't have to know any of this because he knows it. So he just tells me where we go to get the flu shot, and I go get the flu shot. So I will happily get that information for y'all. Anybody got anything else? Y'all.
I got a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Hi, Sarah. It's Audrey, your friend from yoga. Hi.
How you doing?
Great. How are you? Okay. Speaking of flu shots, I got mine and I took my daughter in recently. I still have to get the rest of the family, but a couple people, when I told them that we already got them, said, "Well, isn't it too early for a flu shot?" Do you mind speaking to that?
Sure. So the thing about a flu shot is that it wears out. So that is where the earliness comes in. It's like a booster, right? So I wouldn't say you too early because it's flu season, and so go for it. But it certainly probably can't hurt to get another one in 4 months or so. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And I have one more question back to the hygiene and hands and touching faces. So before COVID, we were using, like basically like lavender essential oils, sprays, and, that kind of milder, I guess, milder products for cleaning, and especially for like, frequent hand after the park and hands after school and stuff. But I guess the common, vernacular is that you need to have 60 or 70% alcohol in the, sanitizing product. Yep. Do you mind speaking to that as well? And then also kind of touching base. I know that there's a cool solution that's being used at school, but just kind of a little bit more on how strong these cleaning products need to be.
Yeah, it needs to be 60%. And I know that that hurts our hands and it hurts all sorts of things, but in order to kill the thing we're trying to kill and to keep it from coming home with us, that's what it takes. We did, when we built out the protocols that Liesl and her team had started when we first started working with y'all, we listed specifically some cleaning products that we recommended, and we can share that list with you guys. She said 60. And, you know, there are some gentler options out there that don't feel like you're diving into a bottle of Tito's every time you need to like wipe down your hands or your house. But that is part of the reality about this, that like lavender and tea tree is not going to do it. But that doesn't mean that you have to be using this product on everything. Like when the virus first hit the United States, people were wiping down their groceries and everything that came into their house. And we've learned that that is no more protective. Like it doesn't, that's not where the virus lives. So, you know, save the hard products for the places in your life where you really need them. And then use the softer products for the places you can use that. A little tip for just like from a sensory place that we've been using in our house is that we have been, because we like really love things that smell good, and I love when my house smells good. So we've been putting like the things that we think smell good in our laundry soap to just give like an extra boost of like, so that everything in our house doesn't smell like Clorox wipes, and that, you know, there are things in our house that smell still like those comforting smells that we need.
So Audrey, if you like lavender and tea tree oil, but you hate a 60 to 60 plus dilution of alcohol solution to clean, put lavender and tea tree in your 60 to 70% alcohol solution. Yeah. That's what we do. We have bottles of actually in our house, we use 70%. We're a bunch of scientists. So we use 70% ethanol solution with lavender and tea tree in it. And it just gives us that like she said, that pheromone, that nasal response is super comforting, and it's not overwhelming that my house smells like a lab, you know? So there are ways to make it a more enjoyable experience. And just to let you know, we were using ethanol and tea tree mixes before COVID, because believe it or not, it may not be super gentle on your hands, but it's great for your surfaces in your home. Because I don't know if anybody else is supposed to sit in a tub of Tito's.
All right, guys, so we're at the end of our time. But the last thing I want to say to you is you are doing it. You are doing it right now. This is no longer a thing that like you're going to do. You're doing it. The kids are back at school. You are in it. Now you get to look ahead to whatever the next challenge is you guys are going to be facing. But right now you can check this one off the list. You did it. You reopened. And here y'all are. You know, you did it. I feel like it's so important to mark these turns in the road, because the road, my friends, is long. It is very, very long. I will share the revised timeline with you when I'm like a month or so when you've eased into this. But it's long, folks. We're going to be at this for a long time together. So we got to find the successes and the celebrations where we can find them. And I personally feel you all deserve a tremendous amount of credit for committing to what you have committed to walking the walk, to doing the work. This is such a like hyper level of vigilance that we are just not accustomed to, many of us, in our communication, in our behavior. And you're doing a lot to keep other people, yourself safe, as well as other people. So just take a moment to look around and recognize that you did it. Liesl, Mandy, you got anything else?
Thank you for your time. We'll get all this synthesized and emailed out and shared with everybody. And just want to encourage you all to try to talk to everybody else. If anybody else has any other questions, we'll do another survey, but to have this be kind of a gathering place where you can bring your questions, bring your concerns, bring your scenarios, because we'll reconvene in 2 weeks on the 22nd at the same time. And we'll record them if anybody needs to see them.
All right. I'll see y'all then. Stay safe.
Thanks, Sera. See you, Roz.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Take care of yourselves. Don't drink and drive. And if you do drink milk, unless you're lactose intolerant, then most definitely have almond or soy milk. You guys take care, okay?